Yo, so this is pretty much a response video, like a mild response video to a lot of the comments. Not even a lot, a majority, a moderate amount of the comments that I got in yesterday's video. I guess you wouldn't see this yesterday, but the tier list video. In the tier list video, I made some, I wouldn't even call them like EO takes at this point. I just made some statements that I felt were pretty obvious with data backing that up. And I was challenged. That's by all means, you guys can challenge me. I'm not saying that you shouldn't challenge anything. Absolutely challenge the fuck out of like a lot of shit that's being said, right? Back it up, plain and simple. Back it up. If you're going to challenge me, if you're going to argue with anyone pertaining to a lot of this stuff, back it up. So one of the things that was brought up that I want to go over is, of course, the Seele and the dill pickle statement that I made, right? Which, again, as I mentioned in that video, there will be its own video. I'll explain it. Don't worry about that. 2, Aventurine and Fu Xuan saying that Aventurine should be tier 0, Fu Xuan should be tier 0.5. One of the comments that I got was from Wes. Wes made a comment basically saying that I was out of my mind. Basically, that's the nicest way that I can put it, that I was out of my mind.
Son of a nice lady. You think I'm dumb or something?
And that Fu Xuan should be in the same tier as Aventurine because they do the same thing. They do the same thing adequately well, if not the exact same way. And there's nothing that Aventurine has over Fu Xuan. He then went on to say that I did not read the criteria and I was basing whatever off of like fields crafting, if you will. So I'm already over here on Twitch. We already went over the criteria. I'm going to leave this page up for just a little bit so that you guys can see this. But the Twitch chat can confirm we literally just read this criteria. I was not going to make this a video. It was just a regular response. And now I'm turning it into a video because I can feel myself getting ready to ramble. Okay. Other criteria affecting the ratings. Now, what Wes stated was that if we're basing this particular thing, I'm going to talk about Aventurine and Fu Xuan first. If we're basing this specific thing on just sustaining, none of this matters. The other criteria affecting none of this matters. So on just sustaining Aventurine versus Fu Xuan, Aventurine smokes the fuck out of Fu Xuan. No one should argue this, although I understand why we're going to argue this. Not we as in me, but we as in you guys. I understand why it's being argued. No one sustains better than Aventurine. Why is this the case? Aventurine is SP infinite, SP positive as fuck. He gives you damn near infinite shields. And in this game, that's basically a second life bar. The difference is Aventurine has so many different consistent ways of restacking. He has a stackable shield, restacking and replenishing the shield that is infinite, damn near infinite, right? Which means the way you get this without using skill points is something that the other preservation or even abundance characters cannot use. This is basically the equivalent of if Luocha did not have a cap on when he could just heal you. So Luocha has once a character goes beneath 50%, he will auto heal them. And then it goes on cooldown for a couple turns. Imagine if he did not have that cooldown and he could auto heal the fuck out of you whenever he wanted. His field was damn near permanent. So you were consistently replenishing the effects of the field in order to heal the rest of the team. This is basically the equivalent of what Aventurine has in his kit, but for shields. Now, one of the key things that I want to point out regarding Fu Xuan that the entire community has complained about, and they've all stated this is Fu Xuan's problem. Not that Fu Xuan is a bad character. Let me make sure that's very, very upfront stated. Fu Xuan is not bad. Going from tier 0 to tier 0.5 does not all of a sudden make this character fucking F tier, right? That the character's not F tier or something like that are horrible just because she goes from tier 0 to tier 0.5. We've already read the new stipulations on the tier list. We should understand this. The letter system doesn't exist. Please don't carry that dumbass mentality. If a character's not SSS plus and all of a sudden they go to S tier, that makes them bad, and it needs to be argued for as to why they're SSSS plus because they're my favorite fucking character. That does not matter. Please don't bring this dumbass shit over here. And I say that with a lot of vitriol in the way that I state that because it's dumb. Now, Fu Xuan, Aventurine, complete sustains. What is Fu Xuan's issue? And I'm sure the chat could actually chime in on this if they wanted to. Fu Xuan loses heavily to DOT, right? Like heavy DOT, she loses because she's racking up everyone's DOT on her. She's not able to keep up with it, especially when you involve skill points, having to replenish her shield, which then goes into her not being SP neutral or at least SP positive. It makes her SP neutral or SP negative. She loses currently to Aventurine. The Aventurine boss stomps Fu Xuan. If you aren't able to take that Aventurine boss out before he sets up the dice and really gets his game going, you lose. Fu Xuan is great at keeping the team alive, She struggles against these specific things, which in turn ends up losing. Longer fights, horrible. You also have Swarm, which Swarm has DOT, it has crowd control, and it has a massive, like, just AoE all across the board, blast damage. Everyone's getting consistently hit. There's multiple enemies doing a bunch of stupid stuff. Fu Xuan struggles. It is what it is. There is no reason that any of us should be saying like, oh no, Fu Xuan doesn't struggle. Fu Xuan's great. She could totally take the Swarm boss ultimate attack. If she could, and it was universally accepted across the board, this would not be a conversation. I promise you, this would not be I would still be saying Fu Xuan is better than Aventurine if this wasn't a part of the conversation. But it is a part of the conversation because that's what happens with Fu Xuan. Aventurine, you know who doesn't have these problems? Aventurine. You know who does everything that Fu Xuan does? Aventurine. You know what else he has that, mind you, if we're not including the other criteria affecting these ratings, and it's just based off of sustain, no other character in the game sustains better than Aventurine. Not Ho-Oh, not Locha, not Gallagher, not Bailu, not Japard, not Lynx, not March 7th, not Natasha, and not Fu Xuan. Having a secondary health bar that you can max out for free is too good. No one else in the game has that. Ho-Oh requires you to use a skill, and even then, she is not healing you at the same defensive output or performance that Aventurine shields do. Fu Xuan does not give you health or shields in the same aspect, right? She does give you health with her light cone or whenever you use her ultimate, but it's not to the same degree of what the abundance characters are supposed to be doing and what the preservation characters are supposed to be doing. She has damage mitigation, fantastic defensive ability, but it does not compare to adding a second recoverable infinite health bar onto the entire team. That's ridiculous. Luocha, we've already talked about Luocha. Luocha's great, but he does have some drawbacks. He has a built-in cooldown to his auto heal, which if you did need to heal, he is forced to use his skill or use his ultimate early, whatever the case may be, in order to keep the team alive or keep that character alive, whatever. Sometimes in the event that the enemy has multiple turns in between Luocha going and when he used auto heal, you just can't get that heal off. Someone's gonna get clapped. It is what it is. Restart the fight. That's totally fine. Gallagher, any 4 stars, anyone beneath Luocha, I should not have to explain why they don't heal or sustain the team better than Aventurine. So based on pure sustain, Aventurine should be tier 0, Fu Xuan, Ho-Oh should be tier 0.5, and then proceed with the rest of the tier list, right? I did make some other statements saying Gallagher would basically be on the same tier as Luocha, but I'm really not, like, I don't care to argue that. You could do either or. I don't think Gallagher is I think personally Gallagher is better than Locha, but I'm not gonna argue that, right? Like I just don't care. It is what it is. These two are what I'm talking about. Now let's go into the rest of what I was talking about, right? Because apparently Wes says that I'm supposed to omit all the other things that I mentioned in the tier list video as to why I believed Aventurine would have been tier 0 and Fu Xuan would be tier 1 or 0.5 with Ho-Oh. If we omitted all of that stuff, I've already talked about it, but let's add, because it's apparently I didn't read the criteria. I don't think Wes read the criteria. Other criteria affecting the ratings: flexibility, investment, utility. Let's focus on utility because that is quite literally the other parts of their kit. What make these three, Ho-Oh, Fu Xuan, and Aventurine, what make them so damn good at doing what they do is the utility built into their kit. It's not just the fact that they sustain. You know who only sustains? Luocha, Bailu, technically Japard. He has freeze, but still, which I do value freeze a little bit, and I love the aggro, so he does have more to his kit. But these three, Ho-Oh sustains you, and she buffs the crap out of you, and she has energy regeneration for the entire team. Fu Xuan gives you a damage buff, sustains the crap out of you, and gives you a crit rate buff for the entire team. Aventurine gives the whatever enemy you're hitting, which is usually all of them because the follow-up attacks, debuffs. He has damage. The other two don't have that. He brings crit damage vulnerability buffs, or in this case, a debuff, right? A crit damage vulnerability, which in turn buffs your entire team. He's SP positive as fuck, and he works supremely well in the follow-up attacking team. Like, that is for him. A lot of what Aventurine does is, oh, and then of course the infinite shields, right? Sustains the fuck out of you. Aventurine has what all of the others have, like obviously not including the very specific minute energy regeneration, crit rate buff, not including the specifics of what they do, but the utility that he provides on top of sustaining is leagues better than theirs. So the same thing that I always talk about whenever I bring up anything pertaining to tiers or ranking characters. If two characters are on the same plane, based off whatever it is, they're not. They're like this, but let's just say they are. If two characters are on the same plane for whatever you're thinking about ranking them, you have to find another metric to then value these characters on. What are you basing these characters on? So what Pridewind did, outside of just sustaining, you have flexibility, investment, and utility. Investment, both of them are easy to invest in to get the highest amount of sustain possible for that team or for that character. Flexibility, they pretty much share the same issues, right? Aventurine pretty much can go on almost every team. I really can't think of a team that Aventurine doesn't benefit from. Maybe Jingliu teams, but even then probably doesn't care. But let's just say Jingliu, right? Jingliu, Blade, teams that want to get hit, or Clara, right? Taking away aggro from something, Aventurine or preservation characters probably don't want to be on that. That's totally fine. Fu Xuan benefits from pretty much everything else, minus the whole like dot thing. Both of them don't really care for dot because of what they're bringing to the table, which is the crit buffs. Dots don't care about crits. So they share similarities in what they're benefiting and what they're not benefiting, right? Now we feel into utility. Because if flexibility and investment are roughly speaking the same, sustain would be, it's not. But again, for the sake of the argument, let's say it's roughly speaking the same. The last criteria here is utility. Who has better utility? It would be Aventurine. It wouldn't be Fu Xuan. You have to include damage. Like I don't know why. And I've tried my best to stop doing that. You guys could always correct me if I do it and I don't catch myself doing it. Please let me know. I've tried my best to stop removing pieces of a character's kit for the sake of an argument. When I argue about Aventurine, I'm not going to remove his damage. That's dumb as why would I do that? Why would I take away the thing that makes him so strong? The fact that he is a sustained character for free, not free as in you don't have to pull him, but free as in like he's sustaining no problem whatsoever. And then also doing damage, which will lead into another topic of discussion we'll have later on about you guys being like really, I don't want to use this word, but it's very, how do I put it? Subpar. That's not the word I'm thinking of. It's a word I can't think of it. But point being is that stop comparing people's damage. It's not biased either. You guys keep, not y'all as in like the Twitch chat, right? But I'm just saying like in general, the general populace that I'm talking about right now, those of this who directly do this, stop comparing Acheron's damage to everyone else. Everyone else does not need to have their damage compared to Acheron. Acheron is an anomaly. That is, she was created. She is a god character. In lore, she is a god character. In game, she is a god character. We cannot keep comparing everyone's damage to Acheron. Nope, doesn't exist. Now we can compare Aventurine's damage to other characters in the game. You know whose Aventurine damage is he's outputting more damage than, if not equal to. And again, we're gonna use the average builds, okay? Not your triple buffered. Hey, I have a genuine with Robin, Sparkle, and Ron May all in one team. I'm not taking that. I'm taking your average build. One unit. We can put either Robin or May on the team. One of them, only one. Sustain, and then your other DPS or supportive characters, whatever. Right? A standard team. Aventurine is outputting, if not doing the same damage as Jingyuan. He is doing the same damage, if not outputting whatever the hell Blade is doing, whatever the hell Argenti is doing, so on and so forth. Aventurine's damage is not piss ass. It's not horrible. The damage output that this character does at the speed he's doing it passively, that's a lot. You said he's not matching Argenti and Jingyuan. I think he is. If I could see some data on that, then by all means I'll resend what I just said. If I can see like the damage calcs for it. I'm the biggest Aventurine glazer. Listen, my Aventurine 70k. I pop my ult 150. I do my follow-ups 70 to 110k. Standard teams. My basic attacks 12 to 22k. The consistent rate that he's doing this shit, what's my Aventurine build, is standard shit. E0 S1, crit damage body piece, 4k defense, And then because of his what is it, his traces or whatever, he gets the extra 48% crit rate. So like 98% crit rate or something like that. And then 150 or 170% crit damage. Like it's the standard fucking Aventurine build that I told you guys to be building, or rather that you should invest in. His damage isn't bad. Then you also add into the fact, same thing with Fu Xuan, quantum entanglement, or in his case, imprisonment. Those are really beneficial to have on any team. Those two break effect stats are really beneficial to have on any team. Argenti strong? I don't think Argenti's not strong. I don't think Argenti is not strong. Listen, like I said, if I can get some data on that, I'll resend it. But I'm being contested. As I told you guys, I want you guys to challenge me. I will temporarily resend the statement. For the sake of Twitch chat and blessing Argenti, we will resend it, and we will not have Aventurine does equal to or more damage than Argenti. We won't have that. You guys are saying Jing Yuan too? Okay, we can throw in Jing Yuan as well. So now we're gonna leave Blade all by his lonesome. That's so bad for Blade. That's just, we can't leave Blade alone, right, chat? Can we add Jing Yuan in there too? Is that not okay? We can't do that. we can't do that. Okay, I guess we can't do that. Yes, give him Himiko. We could add. I will allow personal bias here. This is gonna be my bias speaking. I'll make a trade offer. We can allow Himiko if we put in Argenti or Jing Yuan as well. One of them has to go. Otherwise, no Himiko. That's my final deal. My final offer, chat. My final offer. It is what it is. It is what it is. By the way, guys, that's not me saying these characters have bad damage. What I'm trying to get across, right? The point. Yeah, Sarah, do your thing. Thank you, because I know you have the data. What I'm trying to get across isn't that these DPS characters have bad damage. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is Aventurine has adequate damage comparable to some of the DPS characters we have in the game. So you should be building him with damage and defensive kit in mind. That's all I'm saying. So going back to what I was mentioning, so we can wrap up the Aventurine and the Fu Xuan stuff, it ultimately comes down to why I'm saying that, right? Why I'm saying Aventurine is better than Fu Xuan by 0.5, right? By 0.5 of a tier, half a tier. He is better than her because he does everything that she needs to do with zero issues whatsoever. You know, Fu Xuan's great. She's awesome. So is Huo Huo. Huo Huo is amazing. I'm never going to say Huo Huo is better than Aventurine because I don't value energy the same way that other people do. My main team is a fucking Acheron team. I do not need energy. Most of the teams that I play don't have energy issues. I'm going to keep it a buck. I know a lot of people have these issues with energy. I don't. The only character that I could say has an energy issue when I play them is Jingli or Swan. Maybe Ratio, maybe Topaz, but it's never both. One of them always gets the ult when I need it. The other doesn't. So what is that? 3 tops? I definitely don't have that issue with Seele. I mean, Acheron doesn't have energy, so it's fine. I don't have that issue with Kafka. I don't have that issue with Jing Yuan. I don't have that issue with Clara. I don't have that issue with Blade. Argenti's Argenti. I don't have that issue with Himiko. I don't have that issue with Serval. Even if I use Yangqing, I don't have that issue. Definitely don't have that with Su Shang. Welt is Welt. I guess Welt could probably struggle with some energy issues too, right? I don't have that issue with Sui Yi. I don't have it with Luca. That's it. Yeah. I don't have it with Silver. I don't have it with Gallagher. A lot of the characters in the game, I just don't have energy issues. Like most of the time, if I don't use Huo Huo's ultimate early, I'm just sitting on ults. And then I have to use their ult and then wait for them to be done before I use hers. But that's nitpicking, right? Like that's just a nitpick thing. So yeah, that. To wrap it up, the last thing that I want to like quickly address is the Seele thing. Because a lot of you guys seem to, or not a lot, a few of y'all were misinterpreting what I was saying about Seele. I'm not saying that Seele is arguably top 3 and Ratio is magically not here. What I'm saying, Seele would be up here, not in like tier 0.5. Let me correct that. Okay, top 3, Acheron, Jingliu, Ratio, or Seele. Those are your top 3 DPS characters currently in the game. If we're talking pure raw damage output, damage performance, and how they get about it, those are your top 3. Then you get into the builds, blah, blah, blah. And something that I mentioned in that video was very, very keen. I don't know if people just kind of skipped over it. What I said was the people who play Seele will agree with me. They understand. The people who don't play Seele and they parrot that information, they will continue to argue about it, right? There were a number of comments that I got basically saying Seele was worse than Daniel. Daniel was better, blah, 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 blah. Jingyuin was better than Seele, blah, 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 blah. What about Kafka? Kafka's better than Seele, blah, 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 blah. So on and so forth. I'm not arguing for the sake of just like, I want to suck off Seele, right? Like, that's not what's happening here. I've done the test. I've looked at the data, and even, hold on, you know what, Sarah, let's do this together. Memory of Chaos, and we go to, where is it? Isn't it sort by strict mode and cycles, yeah? Okay, cool, yeah, so this one's Sam. This one is Sam. So average zero cycle, the 0.1%, right? The 0.01% is doing the zero cycle. Bronya, Seele, Kayla, Silver, no sustain, yeah? On average, they have sustain. It's getting 4 cycles, 6 cycles. And these are just the data behind that. Yeah, this is on stage 1. Stage 2, average starts to go up because of Aventurine, or rather because of the Sam stuff. 6, 7, 7, 7. Yeah. And so now let me see, where is Daniel? Sort by cycles. Daniel, on average, based off the data that was given to us, right, from Pridewind, those who input their data, Daniel does not have a zero cycle based off whatever, and somebody would have inputted it, right? Like zero cycle, you would imagine somebody's inputting this information. There's no zero cycle here for Daniel. Using the Powerpuff Girls. Kashmir, I don't think that's universally accepted. I think the more, and I don't even want to say Daniel mains because I don't know who it is, right? Like, I'm not gonna blame Daniel mains for saying anything like that, but I do know that it's always been Acheron, Daniel, and Jingliu that were considered the top 3, right? So if I'm looking at this based off of what would be Pridewind's data, because this is the tier list for Pridewind, yeah? Let's go back to it real quick. You don't have your signature light cone. You don't have a battle pass light cone. Yeah, you don't have your signature light cone. You don't have your battle pass light cone. Anything that you're using with signatures, gone. It doesn't count the data, okay? Eidolons, gone. It doesn't count the data. A lot of the information that you see is from people with E2 Daniel or E0 Daniel plus his light cone, Ruan Mei plus her light cone, Sparkle plus her light cone, so on and so forth. Using the tier list criteria that apparently I did not read, by the way, using the tier list criteria, Daniel does not have his premium gear. He has premium relics. He does not have premium gear. Daniel with Fall of an Aeon is not as strong as Ratio with Cruise in the Stellar Sea, as Seele with Cruising in the Stellar Sea. These two characters, based on Pridewind's data, would be up here. They would take Daniel's position. Now, I personally don't think they are Apex characters anymore. I think they're meta. I don't think they're Apex characters. So because of that, I'm not arguing on their tier placement. I'm saying who are the top 3 DPS characters that we should kind of look at as top 3 DPS. Acheron, Jingliu, Dr. Ratio, and Seele. In the event, we still gave these characters premium gear. Let's just say I gave Ratio his light cone, Seele her light cone, Daniel his light cone. Seele and Ratio still top Daniel. I don't know how else to state, like, to show you guys this, right? Or to even prove this, because at the end of the day, I guarantee you it's gonna happen in this video too. I know it's gonna happen in the comments. Someone's gonna do exactly what always happens. My Daniel, E0 S0, by the way, free to play as well, by the way, beats out my Seele and Dr. Ratio. Anytime I play MOC, I always 36 star everything with Daniel. My Seele could never do that. And my Ratio struggles in MOC 7. Daniel is clearly the better character every single time. Never fails. Every single time someone tells me what, because they did it on their account while their other character could not do it, that means that one character is better than the other characters in the game. Completely disregarding any other information whatsoever that comes up into the table. You know what I mean? And that's just not true. That's just not true. Even, like I said, even if I take the data from Pridewind that people are inputting, this is your, relatively speaking, your free to play, right? I know someone's gonna be like, no, free to play has Sparkle, Ruan Mei, and your free to play gear, asset, account, whatever. This is taken into consideration, absolute free to play. E0 S0 in mind. Daniel is getting 2 cycles. but Seele consistently gets 0 cycles. Let me get that on here. 0 cycle. The only one that we don't have the data for right now, so I'm not gonna say it's consistent, and I did mention that in my video, that it wasn't until this current MOC that I started to see Seele players struggling to 0 cycle something. It's this one. It's this one. MOC stage 2.1.1 stage 12. Everyone has had trouble trying to 0 cycle or perform consistently on this MOC, especially free to play. You start giving these characters premium options, premium gear, premium light cones, eidolons or not, and then you start seeing what I was trying to do, what CN players were doing, what Lacera was doing, things like that, right? What Sarah does. You start to see people getting 0, 1 cycles, 2 cycles, things like that. But as a free to play, all of you were struggling. Every single one of you were struggling here. Acheron, so look at this. Side 2, 0 cycle, 0 cycle, 1 cycle, 4 cycle. That's it. That's it. Acheron's just that busted. But that's kind of all I wanted to like address, right? I really just wanted to address those particular comments going on from the previous video, and not even because like I'm trying to incite chaos or whatever. It just, I wanted to properly explain it without making it an hour-long video on what's going on in my head, what's happening here, and how these characters really come about, why I think the way that I do, and further back that up. And now I'm showing you guys the data once again. Using Pridewind's tier list that we were talking about, I'm using Pridewind's data to back said thing up. Now, the last thing that I wanted to mention, and I'll try and wrap this up really quick, Silver and Pela. Some of you guys seem to be under the conception that just because you use the character a lot means that the other character you don't use or don't have all of a sudden equals bad, and that's just not the case at all. Silver does everything that Pela would do except the AoE part. The problem with Pela in the AoE part, Pela still doesn't have weakness implant. Pela still doesn't have weakness implant. No matter how you twist, turn, and flip it, Silver has everything over Pela. She does the same thing as Pela with a weakness implant. Her break damage is crazy good. He has the ability to be a sub DPS, so you can build her for crit. The things that Silver does put her above Pela. Now, do I agree that Pela is in tier 2? Probably not. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Probably not. But what I do agree with is that Pela is beneath Silver by at least half a tier, if not 1 tier. So if you want Pela, I always say this, if you want this character, if you're arguing that Pela should be tier 1.5, Silver would go to tier 1. If you're arguing Pela should be tier 1, Silver would go into 0.5. And at that point, we're crazy. We're all like bugging, but you know, it is what it is. Point being is that that's how that would go. You would just bump them up 1. I really don't care what tier Pela is in. I don't think this character is bad at all. I think Pela, I was one of the few people in the beginning of the game that called Pela being busted. I'm like, yo, people are sleeping on freeze, they're sleeping on defense reduction. It doesn't matter right now because we're all like level 2, but once we really start getting in game, you're gonna see a lot of stuff like this. If you guys saw the hot takes I made back when the game first came out, you would think I either predicted the future or I'm a genius, one of the two. But that's pretty much it, right? Anyhow, thank y'all for watching today's video. If you agree or disagree, leave a comment down below, respectfully, of course. But other than that, I really just wanted to address those things and kind of knock that out, talk about those things, provide the data to back it up, things like that. If you want to argue, you want to refute whatever I said, give me the data, let me look at the data, come to stream, show me the data, DM me the data. I don't care how you do it, but YouTube comments ain't the way. If you were arguing about what you feel, there's only so much I can respond with. But if you show me the data, by all means, I can resend what I said. Not resend as in R-E-S-E-N-D, but R-E-S-I-R-E-S-C-I-N-D. That's the word. Take it back, okay? Or correct it, if you will. And that's all it is. Anyway, smell you later.